Welcome to a restoration of a 1939 Tootsietoy Army supply truck based on the fire truck of 1937. That's a detail that'll manifest itself later, but it's in pretty rough shape. And this is what it was based on. So the little replacement men are not Army men, they're actually firemen, but I'm going to color them in army green, even though they have enormous high fireman boots and that kind of thing. I'm just inspecting the toy here. Pretty straight up and down, being played with, but very unusually for Tootsietoy, it's got this tin canvas, supposed to be a canvas covering on the back of a supply truck, and very unusual. I've worked with tin toys before, but trying to get this thing off was a real nuisance, and so I'm going to let you enjoy watching me struggle here, trying to get these little tin tabs out. Eventually, I was successful, but it took a while. Luckily, putting it back on was a much easier operation. And here we just want to hammer out those tabs, and we want to correct any little deformities that may have come up while removing it. And this little anvil is perfect for the job. With some small modeling pliers, and the tabs are straight and easy to work with and ready to go back in. We'll take some steel wool, try to clean up the bottom a little bit. It was almost as if the old Graham wheels, this is not from the Graham collection, but the Graham wheels are on it. And that one right there, I tried all I could to get it off. Here I am thinking and tapping the axles. How am I going to get this thing off? So I think I got my dental pick out and tried to get it off of there. Yeah, that didn't work, and I thought, well, maybe if we just put on some paint remover, that'll sort of eat it off. But it looks like one of the old Graham tires was just melted on there. So we're gonna take off all the paint and stuff, or at least most of it. And why I put a glass of water right in front of that, I'll never know. But we got it done. Here we got all the gunk off of it, or at least all the paint off of it. And now I'm taking a little brush. I started out with a little hard plastic brush, but I got a brass brush, which worked a lot better. And of course, steel wool. And that'll clean it up, get the bits and pieces off of there. I use the dental tools to go along the details, just to make sure there are no little burrs and nasty things caught in there. That's what I usually do. On this one, I don't think I ever got around to it. And this is that tin covering, and it's got the sort of tin, the spider webbing that it gets with rust. So that was weird to see on a Tootsietoy. Put a little bit of tan colored hammerite on there. I'll use that on the little men later. Covering up those Graham wheels here with just some painter's tape, and that's working just fine. Now we're going to put some hammerite green on there. Unfortunately, This is almost a cartoonish kind of green. It's almost sort of a Christmas green, and it didn't work at all. So you'll see later I'll have to go back, and I'm just going to put one coat of NATO green olive drab on top of it. Here's the second coat. At this point I was still hoping that it would be okay once it dried, but it really wasn't. And just some light coats on there. Watching it now, maybe I wasn't light enough, but it turned out all right. And here it is. We'll take the tape off the wheels and blacken those up like they're supposed to be. And instead of using paint here, and usually I take these off and I'll spray paint them with Hammerite or something like that, some robust stuff. But I just used a Sharpie, a permanent Sharpie on this, and it worked really well. Easy to control, and the kind of black is about right. So save myself some work. Here come the Graham wheels. They were a little bit dirty, so you'll see that I reapply them later. But they're always nice. They really make these little toys kind of special. These are Graham wheels, but this is not in the Graham collection, so this is a transition at the end of the 1930s. And here are those little men. You can order these little replacement men, and of course this is based on fire trucks, so you get two firemen, and their hats are actually kind of fire hats. And you know, do you give them red fire hats? And I thought, nah. So here's the transparent layer that I like to put on these little cars. And here's the tan. This is what I also did the back cover with. Tan on there, and then I just used that for their skin color. And then I just took some NATO green here, and I'll do their little uniforms and their little helmets. And I noticed that actually they're more detailed than you might imagine. They actually have almost up, almost to the knees boots on, big boots like a fireman's boots, not like combat boots. So I'll come back after doing this, and I will again take the Sharpie and give them some boots. And on this little driver here, I'll do the steering column and the steering wheel in black as well. Real hard to get the focus on these, but I did want to show you the fiddly amount of work, and a disproportionate amount of work for the size of these little figures. You can see there how high the boots come up. And I cleaned the tires off again. I just put them in a cup with some dishwashing liquid and sloshed it back and forth, and they were bright white. So maybe that's a little tip if they've gotten, they do kind of collect dirt, these replacement Graham tires. They do collect dirt, and they get kind of grungy, and just washing up liquid and just slosh it around a bit, and they were good as new. So there it is, looking pretty good. There will be a small mark on the front windshield that we're going to have to fix. Well, the men turned out pretty well. And that large sort of gas tank looking thing behind the driver, I went and couldn't help put a little detail on here. I put the bolts, I colored the bolts on the top of that, resisting the temptation to color it red or something like that. And no one will ever see it. It's under the canvas cover. So, but I had to put a little bit of that extra detail. Way more detail than any Tootsietoy would have originally gotten. There you can see it. So I'm thinking here, how am I going to fix that little right there in the middle of the windshield is just a little place there. Something's gotten scuffed and I just think, oh gosh, I've got to, there it is. And there are the little bolts on the tank. And so I'm just going to have to take a brush and brush that top. It's not a lot of work, but it delays and then you have to, let it dry. And of course I had to respray the top just slightly with the transparent spray. But here it is, ready to go. I'm going to fit this on here. Little tip if you're working on these, putting that little man on the back was a little more difficult than I thought. And I thought, well, maybe if I'd put him on first, this would have gone better. I don't know. I don't know. But that was a fiddly little bit once I got down to it. So here I'm bending the tabs. That looks good. Now I'm going to get the little guys on there. And here's what we started with. And here is what we ended up with. A nice little toy. And from 1939. It's moving on, what is it, 80 some years, 85 years, moving in on 85 years, so 84 anyway, 2023. So thanks so much for watching, and please feel free to subscribe. Thanks so much.